The method was used to show the iron ball, the metaphor of iron ball and fire was used to show that how there is a confusion between what is what. What appears to be one, actually there are two things, and the attributes of one get superimposed on the attribute of other. Yeah? So that means whenever there is ahankara, in that ahankara there is one thing which is awareness, and the other thing is whatever that thought, which is that form thought, I am good, whatever, right? So that is that good, the I am is one thing, but good for now, and that is something which is superimposed. So it gets function, you feel that this is how the nature of I am. So in that, the thought, the awareness actually is free, but it seems to assume that form which is I am good. So that awareness becomes good. Right? And this form which actually belongs to vritti, you impute it on awareness. So both, in fact, there's only one is seen, and each one's attributes get superimposed on the other. So this is how when there are two, there are no two totally different things. One is satyam and the other one is mithya. In this example, there are two different things enjoying the same order of reality. In the reality, there is relationship between awareness and thought there is a satya-mithya relationship. The thought cannot exist without awareness, and awareness is independent of the thought. But in your vision, there is only one thing, which is what? The thought, and that thought you think is I. So your I becomes limited. It's your real I. So that's why I becomes limited. So the whole trick is to understand that there is one thing which is thought, which is variable, and the other is the content, which is invariable. And that invariable content is something which is free from the attributes of the thoughts. And the thought cannot exist without awareness. So what is the proof of that? You don't need a very big proof. You need only two things. The prakriyas, that if you follow what I am saying, it's enough. Before the thought comes, please bring to your mind, because your mind, when it starts trying to figure out, everything that was told is left. You don't use the elements to figure out things. Before the thought comes, I am. While the thought is, I am. After the thought goes, I am. So I am survives what? The coming and going of the thought. Right now, if it survives coming and going of one thought, it survives coming and going of billions of thoughts. Same logic applies. The other thing is, the attribute of one thought is not carried forward to the attribute of the other thought. When I stop thinking about this rose and I start looking at Yuta, none of the part of the rose sticks to my vision of Yuta. That means that if awareness got mixed up with that given thought, next time my awareness would be what? Mixed with that rose, and it will see Yuta. Then the next time I see Anu, then the vision will be rose, Yuta and Anu. Then when I think of a tree, it will be rose, Yuta, Anu and tree. If awareness actually took on the attribute of the thought. Once you understand this, it's not subject to contention. I'm showing you, the whole Shruti shows you this relationship. that awareness survives a thought and awareness does not take on the attributes of thought. Two things. You can't keep on getting confused with your own thinking if you apply these two simple logics. So therefore, this is something that we have seen. Now, the other thing which I do want to mention before I go on to the next part, and that is something which Yuko asked me after the class, which are very, very important points which I would like to bring out. Up to now, what I have shown you is all the objects are what? Mithya. They have a dependent reality. Whether it is an object which was existing today or 10,000 years from now or 25,000 years from now, the fact remains that it is mithya. Whether the object is known to you or it is unknown to you. So many things we haven't even discovered. They are all mithya. The only thing which I left out in my analysis is time and space. And she pointed it out. And that is very bright. I'm happy that you did that. Because when we talk about Jagat being mithya, Jagat by its definition means not only objects, it means what? Time and space within which the objects exist. So therefore, if I were to make the statement that Atma, the awareness, is Satyam and Jagat is Mithya, then not only I have to show you the relationship between objects and awareness, I also need to show you the relationship between what? Time and awareness and space and awareness. Because universe includes time-space framework within which objects exist. So, what is the relationship between time and awareness? So, all the scientific discoveries help Vedanta. Because Vedanta, the vision, when Vedanta says Jagat is mithya, Jagat includes what? Time, space. So Jagat, the time also must have what? Dependent reality on awareness. And space also must have what? Dependent reality on awareness. But how do you show it? The method that the rishis looked upon, the rishis are the seers who are the ones who came up with Upanishad mantras, they always understood time as a dependent reality. It's not something which is absolute. For a long time, scientific world believed that time and space is absolute, within which, and they are constant and they are absolute, and within which all the objects exist, and the objects keep changing, but time and space are constant and absolute. Until few years ago, Einstein discovered the fact that the time and space itself is relative. There is no absoluteness about time and space. And that discovery was so fundamental. He himself was so surprised, and he made a statement that the ground on which I am standing is beginning to shake. Because there is nothing about this world which is absolute. He saw that. It's only relative. So this is the knowledge that we have today, that there is no such thing called the absolute time. What does it mean? it means that the time as we experience on this earth, if you go in outer space, the time, the clock, what does it move in the same way? Is the time the same if you go outside the space? No.
Slowly.
Huh?
I guess slowly.
Yeah. So that means there is no fixed unit of time. This is something that was done with a stimulation. There's a very famous experiment of the twin. This was a simulation, no, Surya? It was a
just a thought experiment.
thought experiment.
But he didn't take two twins.
No. So, a thought experiment which was that there was two twins are born at the same time on earth. One stays on earth, other goes on space travel.
At very high speed.
At a very high speed.
Speed of light.
Light.
That's why it cannot be an experiment which can be.
So therefore, now what happens after, let's say, 50 years of earth time, the twin comes back. Have both the twins aged the same? No. They've aged differently because there, according to the speed of how the twin was traveling, the time was experienced differently. This particular understanding our rishis had. We have a ritual in India for people who have passed away, or your ancestors who have passed away. The ritual is called Shraddha. Shraddha is there is an annual Shraddha, where you offer food to your ancestors to say thank you because how they have lived, the values that they have instilled, you are beneficiary of that. So you understand that you live in an interconnected world. It's not like you are because of something. They have a contribution to your life and you have to acknowledge that. So every annual, that particular tithi on which the ancestors passed away, they offer, in order to show gratitude, what do? They offer food and they offer prayers and they ask for their blessings. Now, they said, why every annual year? They said that if the ancestor has moved to other lokas, then the 1 year of earth time is 1 day in that Pitruloka time. So when you are offering food to your ancestors once a year, they are getting their food how many times? Once a day. Because the time moves differently in other parts of the universe. They understood that. So this is how the relativity of time, now that is what we understand, that there is nothing absolute about time. But you still have to show that what is the relationship of time with awareness. So the one easy method is, you look just as in object, in order to arrive at the truth, what do? You start looking at the object. Here you start looking at the time. Time. We all would agree that this is the hour. What is the hour? 12 o'clock the class started. Now 1 hour itself is a name for what? When 60 minutes are over, it gets a different name called 1 hour. So that means this hour that we all agree it is there is what? The constituting of parts. So many different minutes. 1 minute is what? 60 seconds. So that 1 minute itself constitutes of what? Parts, which is 60 seconds. 1 second. Microsecond, nanosecond. The whole thing, just as an object collapses based on inquiry, time also, if you look into the time, it collapses into parts. Parts within parts within parts within parts. Ultimately, what remains is nothing but a concept. And again, the concept of time, in order for it to be there is necessity of awareness. Awareness on which you superimpose what? A unit of time, and then it becomes time. Infinite units. So therefore, any concept cannot exist without the presence of awareness. Whereas awareness does not need what? Any concept for it to exist. So therefore, time also is mithya. Dependent, what? Names within hour, to minutes, to seconds, to microseconds, to nanoseconds. What is the final truth of time? Same awareness. Then comes the space. Space and time, according to modern physics, cannot be separated. They work together. Okay. But for our convenience to show the relativity of space and the relationship between awareness and space, we use a method. The method is, every object, we all agree, it exists within space. Yeah? You occupy this space and I occupy what? I mean, this body occupies that space and this body occupies what? This space. And in the distance is what in terms of how much there is empty space between two of us. Right? So what is the distance? You occupy here and I occupy here, and what is the distance is what in terms of the feet or centimeters. If you're European, it is meters, right? We use meters. So therefore, if I ask, what is the distance between I and Matt? They both exist in space. He occupies a different point of space and I occupy a different point of space. So what is the distance? We both exist in space. How many meters?
About 1.5.
1.5. Okay, so let's take 1 meter. So that 1 meter again is how many centimeters?
100.
Huh? 100. And then 1 centimeter is 100 millimeters. And 1 millimeter is... So that means we have units which all seem very tangible. We create units which are very tangible and they seem like reality to us. The units are just names which are nothing but what? Many other assemblage of other units. And that unit is in turn assemblage of other units. We give more importance to the units, we forget the content. So that means if you look in terms of units, where will you end? It is divided further and further and further. There is no end. Until it becomes indivisible. And this is why what they say is, if you look at the distance here, that they understand this Scientists or mathematicians, they understand what the infinity, the whole thing of infinity. It's brilliant how they understand. They understand that between this, it seems like there is 1.5 meter distance. But if you think in terms of points, how many different points are there in between a finite distance of 1 meter? You'll be able to answer. Infinite points. Infinite points will what? So that means every point you make, it is further divided and further divided. Infinite points, how does it make it to finite distance? Mithya. The world, we are so thankful to scientific discoveries, because all the rishis which they have been talking about, you can use. This is why we don't make distinction between material world and spiritual world. World is one, and the truth is everywhere in this world. Wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where there is satyam. Don't look for satyam somewhere else. You don't need to run away from the world. In the world is satyam. You miss it because of your ignorance. It can't reveal itself more than what it reveals. The only thing which keeps us from seeing this reality is our own notion of things. So this is why the time depends upon awareness. Awareness does not depend. It's not an existence which is subject to time. Yesterday, Anna was asking me this question about Atma. And I said, Atma is defined as Brahman. And Brahman is, as I said, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Satyam is existence. Sat, existence. It's not Satyam. That Sat is here in the form of existence. Every existence that you know is within time and space. Awareness, which is a self-revealing presence, which is not an object, is the only thing which is truth of time and not subject to time. Sat. It is truth of space and not an object in space. It is truth of every object without being any object. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. In this definition, the relationship of Atma with time and space is included. Because Sat is, there is a huge, you have studied Taittiriya Upanishad. In Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a huge discussion. What is the meaning of Sat, existence? You remember? Yes. So, the existence, it is unlike every other existence. Not subject to time and space, but the truth of time and space. It is not a given object, but it is truth of all objects. It is not inert, it is in form of awareness. That existence, which is awareness, is limitless. Limitless does not mean, as I told you, boundaryless. It means that there is no second thing other than this awareness. The names and forms are there, true, and they have functions. But in terms of content, anything that you look, it resolves in awareness here and now. When you look at time, it resolves in awareness. When you look at space, it resolves in awareness. When you look at an object, it resolves in awareness. Where do you find this awareness? Where is this awareness? In your buddhi. Well hidden. A self-evident I. If everything resolves in awareness, you must find awareness, right? Where will you find it? Huh?
Where not?
Where not, but the access that you have to awareness is what? Because you can't objectify it. The only point of access you have for this awareness is in your buddhi, a self-evident I. Then, using the pramana, you free it from every limitation and you see that it has no real limitation, even though it seems to be confined to the buddhi. This is why this whole big discussion between ahankara and buddhi. Awareness is available to you, and in your ahankara is the very adhisthana of ahankara, the very basis of that ahankara. Not only you have to understand that this awareness is free from the I sense, you also have to understand that this awareness is truth of every body, every mind, every inert object. It is truth of time and space. You have to figure it out. By inquiry, using logics, infallible logics. So, this is the relationship. So, therefore, the universe, when we say both, it includes not only objects but time and space. And see, many people say, oh, there are many universes. There are not many. The universe is defined as anything that exists within time and space, which is known to you and unknown to you. Many things in this universe are not known to you. But if your understanding of the truth depended upon knowing everything in detail, you will never understand the truth. Because it's not possible for a human mind to figure out every object. But if your knowing of the truth did not depend upon knowing each thing individually, then you can arrive at it. If I have seen one body, I have seen what? All the bodies. If I have arrived at the fact that one body is mithya, it has a dependent reality, I can safely apply it to what? All the bodies known to me and unknown to me. Because it remains the same. The relationship remains the same.
Isn't it also possible that there exists something which is not within time and space, but still not Atman, so between time and space and Atman, so that Atman is even a higher energy, but there are some existence that are higher energy than we are, so that our eyes cannot see them.
Yeah. So those entities that you are talking about, they are also entities, right? So as I told you that there is a causal body, the causal body doesn't only give you birth on this earth. It can give you, in Vedic model, it can give you higher births. So there is Pitraloka, there is Devaloka, there is Indraloka, there is Brahmaloka. So there are 7 worlds which are up, and then 7 worlds which are down. But they are all the result of what? Your karmas giving you higher bodies with better powers and better abilities. But the body, if you get in this heaven, whichever that place is, Indraloka, may not be the same body. It's a different body with better capacities, finer senses.
What is better?
Better means in the sense that it will not get old, it will not have diseases, right? So that means it's more, you can enjoy more. Because as Surya was saying, imagine you really want to enjoy, but if you are feeling shoulder ache, then your day is gone. So when you have the bodies which are not subject to that many aches and pains and diseases, then that's a better body. Because the body is meant for you to, what? Go through experiences. So the more pleasant experiences that you have, then what it is, what we call, it's a better kind of a life. But the fact remains that body itself, whether it is made up of whatever, but it is always going to be made up, it's a put together. Body means it's put together.
Awareness.
Always, exactly. That relationship remains the same. This is why they say that until you come to know, we are not trying to just live a more ethical, of course we have to live an ethical life, but the end of life is not just living more responsibly and then gathering better karma. It is to get out of this cycle, because that individuality that you are stuck to is born of ignorance. Is not the reality about you. But in order to know it, you need to be a responsible person. You need to be a compassionate person. You need to be a person who is following values. Because without which, you will never be able to solve this bigger puzzle of life. So that means goodness is a means and not an end. We are not saying goodness is not required, but it's a very basic need. And then you move forward to solve the puzzle of life, which is a much bigger understanding of who you are. So therefore, what you are saying is true. There are so many entities which are unknown to us. And they may have better powers, they may have better bodies, they may have longer life. But still the entire thing exists in awareness. Yeah. Now the next verse is actually a verse which is a tricky verse, because they use a certain terminology which our teacher never agreed with, but I will try to explain. So, ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibihi sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam cha trividham kramat. So now, because that I sense is the one that we are mostly stuck with, so he concentrates on this I sense. Because body is not a problem, mind is not a problem, everything gets imputed on I and loaded onto I is a problem. So therefore, this ahankara, he says, is as though connected to three things. What is it? Chit, chaya, deha and sakshibhihi. So, ahankara, which is this I sense, which is existing in your body, he says it is connected to three things. What is it connected to? Chit chaya. What is chit chaya? This is where people translate it as reflected consciousness. Our teacher did not agree with that, because there is no such thing called reflected consciousness. All that is here is what? One undivided consciousness. The minute you start to say that it is a reflected consciousness, what will happen? That there is one consciousness which is the real consciousness, like the sun. They use this analogy, right? That there is a sun, then there is a water, and then you see what? The reflection of the sun in the water. And that image that you see in the water is what? Reflected sun. When you try to use the same for awareness, what will happen?
Make two.
You make. That's why he didn't like this terminology. But at the same time, what we can use in terms of provisional thing is that, you know, um, if you take the awareness which is all pervading and the body as something which is a reflecting media, then there is this awareness which as though what appears to be confined to the body. The better way to look at it, simpler, to look at it is awareness which is always everywhere. There is no such thing called reflection and all. But it seems to be what confined. The minute the body is born, it seems to be what confined to the body. Like when the pot is born, the pot space as though comes into existence. Pot space comes into an existence, even though space is always there. Without undergoing any change as though the pot space is born. Without undergoing, has the space undergone any change to become pot space? It as though receives a confinement. So this as though confinement is what we call Chidabhasa. Awareness as though becomes confined to this body. This is something which is what he is saying is what Sahajam. Sahajam means, did you create that? It is, everybody is born like that. Awareness which is always there, which is undivided, seems to be what confined when a given body is born. That is what we call Chidabhasa. Who created? This is the design. Why is it created? This is how it is.
So reflected consciousness in a way is sentiency in simple words, or?
It's
the difference between insentient matter and sentient matter?
Yeah, so what they say is, in fact here he's saying the awareness which as though assumes, right, it seems that which is confined to your body. So that means it is not exactly Sukshma Sharira. It is, you see what I mean? Sukshma Sharira would be if this cup had the capacity to think and it thought, that would be Sukshma Sharira. But this awareness is something which it as though is getting its boundary with the birth of any given object. Right? So if it had Sukshma Sharira, it will start to have opinions about I. That is Sukshma Sharira. This doesn't have Sukshma Sharira, but it still has what that Chidabhasa.
It has still Chidabhasa, yeah?
Sorry, it's still
The normal cup, yeah?
No. I mean, yeah. Because here the space seems to be confined. Then the presence of Sukshma Sharira will give opinions and give feelings and give things like that. So therefore, now this is not the terminology which my teacher has used, but I'm just trying to make it as understandable as possible. Because other teachers use it, but they don't explain properly, so nobody is clear about what it means. So, this Chidabhasa is now, this is a creation of what he says, Sahajam. Sahajam means what? That this is how things are. The awareness, the minute any given form is born, awareness seems to what? Be confined to that form.
So it's like an identification with the form.
Exactly. Right? As though any confinement with that form. Wonderful. That is what Chidabhasa means. Right? And that is something which is how the whole universe is born. This is why we all make a mistake. We don't, we think that things are independent entities and we are separate from each other. Okay? Then there is within that Chidabhasa it then has a special connection. Why do you have connection to this body and I have connection to this body? That is what he says. Each one space is confined by one cup, which is small. And the other space seems to be confined by another cup, which is of different size, different shape, different. The space without ever getting confined seems to be confined. Then you can ask, okay, so here why is this space confined in this form and this space is confined with that form? Exactly. And that deha, every time a human is born, the awareness is confined within what? As though within that body. And why is it confined within that body? The deha is because of, as Anna is saying, it is karmajam. Karmajam means that otherwise what is the reason why the same awareness which is undifferentiated seems to be as though what? Appearing in so many different forms. The form that it takes is because of karma of the jiva. So that means my body is born because of not your karma. They are born because of my karma. Your body is born because of your karma. So what accounts for differences in the body, even though awareness is one, is what? Different karmas of individuals.
But karma is something that remains over there, right? So there must be something where the karma is memorized or something like that.
Okay, so that means that the karma remains, it's memorized, but it's not an entity which keeps an account. We will look into Ishvara. In that, it will be explained. Yeah. It's not like some central computer there who's keeping account of all karmas. But that's a good question. I will explain to that when there's a whole discussion on Ishvara. I will come there. But the karma, the way it works, is that you must also know. That there is this whole karma account that we all have of all the unseen results of the past which are not yet experienced by us. The punya and papa, unseen result which are of a good action not yet experienced by us, and unseen result of an inappropriate action which is not experienced by us. So this is this whole big karma which is there for every jiva, every individual. Now all the karmas cannot come into their manifestation. So out of this whole set of karma, a given set gives you this body. That given set, that the total account, we give a name called samchita karma. Samchita karma means the entire collected karma that you have over different lifetimes. Out of this whole karma, in this lifetime, you can't experience them all. A given set come into manifestation and give you that body. That particular karma is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means something which has begun to give their results to you. Your parentage, your childhood, your financial situation, the skills with which you are born, the mindset with which you are born. All this is not just random. It is because of the past causes. So this set of karma, they are called prarabdha karma. So that means Deha is Karmajam. Karmajam is what? That I, Ahankara, finds itself in this particular body and has this particular skills and has this particular I sense is because of karma. Because it is subject to karma, is it something which you are stuck with for rest of your life? No. A certain orientation with which you are born, somebody is a genius in mathematics, somebody is an artist, somebody is a painter, somebody is a musician. All these differences are because of what the past causes, karma. But you also have what we call free will in this birth. So that means, let's say, two human beings are going through some difficult situation, and one person is what? Telling oneself, is bitter about things and is saying that, the world is unfair and I'm doing so well but I'm never rewarded, I'm never done, all these things. And then you become, I know so many people, Alfred was telling me about working with the UN, and it's true that in some ways the people who work with the UN are probably one of the most privileged people because they have high salaries, they have diplomatic status, they have all kinds of education subsidies, they have pension funds, everything is so well taken care of. But if you don't get couple of promotions, it's a huge system, and within that huge system, if you don't get one promotion, then people start cribbing. Cribbing means they start complaining. And they start complaining and they said, we find ourselves in this big system, our boss is so unfair and he doesn't look at the talents, he makes all these very political decisions, and then they get into this mindset. And every day they go to work with this dissatisfaction. And in the meantime, they are receiving huge salary, all kinds of benefits. But in their mind, what is going on? That they are so unfairly treated. And with that mindset, if you go to work, what is going to be your productivity? So that means you don't think about how you can contribute. You're constantly thinking about what you feel you're entitled to. And if what you feel you're entitled, if you don't get it, you enter into this whole negative, critical mode. So what ends up happening is, one or two no promotions, the person is going to be non-productive for rest till the retirement, will take huge salary and will not contribute. And instead of thinking, what am I doing, will always complain and talk about the system being unfair. This is how we create stories. And we are convinced by our stories. The other person who doesn't get promotion can say, I'm receiving so much anyway. Already the system is taking care of so many of my needs. Even if I don't get the promotion, whatever is within my sphere of influence, let me apply my mind and do well. If not this time, maybe next time I'll get promotion. What you tell yourself, as I told in that slide that I showed you, there is an event, then what we act. between that event and action, there are so many conclusions, data selection, building on that data, creating a story around that data. So much has happened like this. And we never check to see that.
Is karma connected to this material world then?
Yes, the karma is connected to the whole universe, right? Every jiva, the individual, experiences one's individuality, one's personal opportunities, challenges according to one's karma.
Because that is so interesting, especially in India. If you be there, you see a lot of different kind of people who are very poor, people who are very rich. So the question is, can the rich people perceive their situation as a positive karma of their ancestors or of themselves?
Both. Because as I showed you that, it's an interconnected world. So largely it is your own karma. But at the same time, it is also the karma of the other people that you benefit from. For example, if your father works really hard and gets a couple of promotions, then you also benefit. So the whole world is interconnected. But the thing is, when you are, let's say, born in a privileged background, it doesn't mean that it will stay privileged. So a lot of my friends who generally belong to quite privileged background, and they tell that their sons and daughters, they don't have, because they have everything. They have a lot of wealth, they've gone to best schools, they have all the opportunities, they are given everything, and they said they just don't have that much drive as a middle class person who is really putting all the effort and resources to educate the kids. And those kids who come from middle class family, many of them go to the US and become big shots. So that means it's not like once you're born in a rich family, you're always going to be at the same level. And if you're born in a middle class family, you're always going to. Things can shift over a lifetime.
Yeah, my question is whether our ignorance is creating this measurement that I deserve it or not deserve it. Because that is what you often have.
Yes, exactly. So that's the thing. So you're right. This ignorance, that's exactly. So this two people did not get promotion. One is trying to apply oneself by seeing also the fact, yes, I'm disappointed. True, I'm disappointed. Without denying the disappointment, seeing the total picture. That I'm disappointed, at the same time, I'm receiving a lot of benefits. And if that is the case, at least if I choose to stay in this organization, I have to give my best. The other person also did not receive and got into this whole thing about the whole organization is so unfair. So two people have what similar situation. How they understand the situation. One person is understanding out of this relative ignorance, and the other one is what? Relatively more wise point of view. They will behave differently in this world. And because they will behave differently, then the results will come differently for both of them in the future. So this is why your point is very important. If you want to remove the big ignorance, which is where discovering of your limitlessness, you can't continue to operate from this relative ignorance. Lovely. So connected. If you're interested in removing ignorance, you said, I want to know Brahman. And here you can't handle not having a promotion. You continue to create a story which is born of ignorance. This is why growth is so important. Growing as a human being is critical, without which this bigger ignorance is never going to go. We need to remove our smaller ignorances in order for us to be ready for the big removal of big ignorance. Wonderful. It's non-negotiable. This is how the universe is designed. It will not lift the veil until we have done the job of self-growth.
The society in India is quite different from the society in Europe. And is there actually a misunderstanding somehow as well that, like in really low caste, that it's just the way it is and you can't really go higher or like have so much personal growing that you really understand more? That like how my question is like how's the difference between really accepting that everything comes from Ishvara, but not just staying there and being not actively going towards a goal? And
yeah, so this is what I said. Okay, now imagine now the third person did not receive promotion and the third person is saying, oh, everything is coming from Ishvara, so let me be totally passive.
Yeah.
So that means that story is also equally born of ignorance.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You see how we create so many different stories and it seems like a spiritual story. I'm leaving everything to Ishvara. I'm resolving everything into Ishvara. But it is still because you're not doing what you are supposed to be doing. You're becoming lazy, you're becoming passive.
Because I have a free will.
You have a free will and you have to engage.
I think the important, how I understand it, the important point is not connect to a concept which is material wealth, for instance. Connection to this concept in my personal life means the ignorance. And to get rid of that concept opens up doors for...
Exactly. At every level. And what is important is, in order to get to that bigger ignorance, you need to undo the smaller ignorances. You can't skip.
And I mean, there is somehow that we actually can all trust the whole system, because I mean, if we stay ignorant, I mean, there will come situations which can really show us our ignorance.
Absolutely, Christina. Absolutely. The minute you try to dodge, it will keep coming back. This is how that's why the whole universe, as we will see, is an intelligent design. It's not some dead universe within which you are trying to navigate yourself. So you have to understand that Ishvara. So this is where, so that means your whole way of looking at, because your life you have to live, situations will arise which will dissatisfy you. It's true, nobody can avoid it. But how you deal with that situation is, whether it is not that of absolute ignorance, but a relative ignorance or a wise standpoint. That choice you have. And you have to break free from your ignorant standpoints which belong to the past. Then you have to break free from that and you have to recreate. This is what I showed the slide. Getting away from the superhighway of habit and recreating the country road of compassion. You have to do it. There is no choice.
So, did I get it right that the difference is if I think something, then I'm on the subtle body level?
Yes.
And the moment I act, I influence the causal body. Is it right?
Yes, perfect. Yes, you do affect the causal. Wonderful. True.
Yeah.
True. You affect the causal body because whatever today you do, right? So 3 people did not get promotion. One is saying, oh, it's my karma and it's Ishvara and it is, and I don't do anything about it. The other person takes active steps to engage, and the third one is complaining. Now, the 3 people will influence, as Sahajo says, their causal, right? Because they will get result for that action. And that means that, and where will it collect? Ultimately in the causal body, correct?
Then I have a question.
You can also only thinking and not acting out, you can collect karma as well.
Yeah, so as I told you, that when you just totally let it go, it's a passing thought of irritation, then there is no karma. But if you build on it, then it can become one of the three types of karma. Either mental karma, manasa karma, vachika karma, or kaika karma. When you use your free will and give it a form and a thought and a time and a place to build on it, then it becomes karma. A passing thought is not a karma. So if you don't get it and if you're disappointed, that's fine. There's no problem. Because that's how is the response. This is how things are. But if you make it big, then there is karma.
So I'm able to act with the free will.
Yes.
So where the free will is coming from.
Yeah, the free will is part of the brain design.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why the human brain comes with the program of free will. It's not totally free in the sense that you can't decide to fly tomorrow. So it comes within a certain program, but you are not totally programmed either.
Makes sense.
So that.
I mean, is it really, what does free mean in
It means very easy. It's something very simple. If you follow the neurosciences, the amygdala of everyone has somewhat basic instincts. But along with basic instincts, it also has what your previous samskaras, your previous emotional makeup. The minute you invest in knowing something more about the world, where are you operating? In your prefrontal cortex. The minute you empower yourself and you don't just let this be, you are, as Surya showed, you're influencing in the long run of how you think, how you feel. The whole thing is one system. This is why people operate, people invest in knowing things better so that they can operate and they can influence their emotional life better. This is all free will. You can choose to either just work as your amygdala came or invest in knowing something more which will change the configuration. That is free will.
Yeah, but where does this power come from? Maybe one person has the willpower to do something, the other person doesn't have this power.
That is something which is, as I keep telling you, that the stories that we tell ourselves, right? So that means it's a, see, at any given point in time, what happens is, every time you are operating from ignorance, it will bring suffering. And nobody likes suffering. So that means your willpower will come one day when your suffering becomes so intense that you find that this way of thinking is unsustainable. You will, this is how human beings are, they look for solutions, and the time of crisis they are more coming to Vedanta. Very few come because they want to understand the whole truth of the universe. They come because they are suffering, and that suffering has become unsustainable. So that means suffering doesn't mean that you always, that is how the whole design is, it impels.
What if there's a poor child in, for example, Africa somewhere that wants to know more, to have more abilities or more freedom, but it is denied education, so it can't ask anybody? So is this karma, or what is his free will?
See, these are like, these scenarios we love to create. And then there's somebody who's totally helpless and all. And maybe there are some people.
It's not unlikely.
It's not unlikely, that's true. But you know what, every person has an opportunity to take that one step further in one's evolution.
So it has to come again first?
So, sorry?
So it has to die and come again to...
See, even in Africa, you still find people who go abroad, they do well. It's not like people are doomed. Right? So there also there are businessmen, there are also entrepreneurs. See, life is far more nuanced than kind of the scenarios that we create. It's true that there are some people who have relatively less opportunities than there are some other people. That's true. But that is because of some karma. But that doesn't mean you're doomed forever. Every time you make one step further, the universe what rewards you with a reward. One step, one little step, it rewards you. Punya. One little step, more punya. Over a period of time, from a tea seller, you can become Prime Minister of India.
Neema? And at that point comes the question, do we need a teacher, do we need a therapist, or do we need help with these little steps?
Yeah, with
The
each
scripture says
little
yes, no?
yeah, each little step, it's true that you must have some kind of a conviction. See, because if for example, if you are full of trouble, either you can say, let me just get drunk and just forget all my problems. That is, or let me take drugs and then I'm in some euphoria or whatever, right? Or you can say, let me help myself. That free will is given to every human being.
I don't know how free it is, because some people just, if you don't have the capacity to do it,
See, that some people you forget. You have made choices in life. Don't think about X person. We are not talking with X person, what that person is, you don't know. You are just trying to guess what that person is. Talk about yourself.
And even that, I mean, those who want to come to India, I will take them and I will show you the so-called unprivileged, let's say, so-called people and the so-called lower classes. I'll bring you to slums and you will see if they have no free will or not. It's amazing the degree of free will and the degree of mobility which is happening within one generation now in India. It's amazing how our maids, our drivers and so on, they get their kids educated, they're engineers. Okay? So maybe because you have not seen that anymore in the Western societies, it's kind of frozen or kind of rigidified, the social mobility is less. Even though in theoretical, let's say, terms, there is social mobility in the West, but in fact it's not true anymore. If you want to see social mobility, come, I will show you. I will show you.
I don't say that there is no social mobility, but there are places where there is no chance for it or no opportunity.
That's true, it's okay.
But see that your imagination that there is no chance to maybe move forward one step is your conclusion.
Exactly.
There is no chance to move according to what you want to, where you want them to go, maybe. But no chance to move from one step further, that is something that we imagine. There is no such thing.
We are here in like what is called this dichotomous reasoning. Either there is everything, either there is, or there is nothing. In fact, it's not between all or nothing. As she said, there are small steps. So access just to school, okay? Access to some health. This is also something which is big. And then afterwards, so then your degree of freedom is, and your level of opportunity are increasing and widening. But it's not from zero to everything, right?
You see in terms of numbers,
Yeah.
there are currently, lately there came a report from Oxfam that about it's the discrepancy is widening. So 62 families or persons are owning more than 3.5 billion people in this world. So that there is a discrepancy, but I think it's also based on ignorance. Because discrepancy, this kind of discrepancy wouldn't exist if people would act according to their inner spirituality and not to their ignorance and their concepts. That's happening, I think, in the poor side as well as in the wealthy side. And that is where I think the intervention comes in. That if we're going to act on this, that we help people to come and evolve to the next level, then I think that problem can be solved. Or
That is
will be solved by
absolutely
itself.
true. And the only way for you to help them to evolve is to give them understanding. There is no other way. And that understanding, until then, they will continue to use their faculties as they were using before. The minute you give them understanding, you're working on their prefrontal cortex, they understand the reality differently. When they understand reality differently, they will feel differently and they'll act differently.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we are saying.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that also means that sometimes you have to have an opinion in life and say,
Absolutely.
this is not right. And this is something I'm going to spend time and help and support in creating a field where people can then evolve.
Yeah,
It's free will.
But that's
the
exactly
free
free
will.
will.
Yeah.
The capacity to make changes
Yeah.
that you find are desirable.
Yeah.
This is free will.
Absolutely.
But that
Right?
free will
what
has
is-
conditions. That
It has
free will-
conditions, true.
Yeah,
Sure.
it is constraint. Your articulation,
That's true.
has some
But
degrees of
there is an
freedom.
opportunity. If you
But
feel
it's
that there
not
is no
totally free. You cannot
opportunity,
move it
then
like
it's a
totally.
robotic,
That's
it's a
all.
machine like.
Right?
And this is exactly when I gave the example of 3 people not having promotion. That 3 people are using their free will to respond to situations. And they are, each one is responding to situation according to the story that that person tells. That story is something which can change over a period of time. It's not like it's the same story I'm telling, so no matter what I do, I'll tell the same story. That's a very, very kind of fatalistic way of looking at things. We constantly change. This is reality. We constantly change. Why would you come and invest in knowing something more if you felt that your life is never going to change and you're going to think exactly as before? Why would you come here?
Sure, but what is the reason? I mean, I totally agree with your analysis. But what makes one person take the opportunity and the other one be in the same situation?
Their
not
free
taking
will.
it?
Exactly.
It's conditioning.
It's, I mean, is it free will or
See,
is
if
it
it is-
dependent on different other
Yeah.
factors? I
Karma,
mean, is free will independent
Yeah, yeah.
will or...
There is no absolute free will.
no.
It's always constraint. And the level of constraint, which can be cultural, education, environmental, and so on, these are all brought by karma. But in spite of this level of constraint, you still have this.
I mean, you have a choice.
Yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't say
That is
free
influence,
will, but
of
it's
course
a
it's
choice.
influence.
You can take or you can leave it.
Yeah.
So that is
So-
called free will.
Yeah.
When you have a choice, it is called
And
free
it's
will.
not free of any causes or conditions or circumstances,
Yes.
but I can make a choice,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
I can leave it or take it or differently
See,
or
you have to
whatsoever.
add- yeah.
But it's not. It's if you take the cause and effect relationship, and if you say everything, for every effect there is a cause,
Yes.
and for every cause there is another
Yes.
cause, and everything is linked together. So there is no freedom in the sense, like I just take a decision free of.
True.
But I have the opportunity to take the decision or not, and now regardless in which miserable situation I am or not. I mean, not depending on India or Germany or whatsoever. But that's for me, my feeling says that's not freedom because there are conditions.
Isn't in the end
So, but maybe that's just a wording.
Yeah, I think
karma also free will actually eventually?
exactly. Absolutely. See, because the way you have exercised your free will, you are reaping the results of that. And what you are going to do today is also going to determine what your future is going to be. So that means it's always what right now I have an opportunity to think differently, to do differently, to understand things differently. That opportunity is given.
I mean, according to all of this, I think then we often have a much too smaller view on what we do, because so many people work really hard in their jobs, but then in the evenings they're really miserable, or they do, I don't know, like really harming other people, and then they're wondering that why maybe they don't get what they want to receive in the job, but it's kind of all related to each other, isn't it? So it can come from another, like it comes from another point in life, results than we often expect. It's not like they are there, it's like all mixed up somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because absolutely, I mean, if you are frustrated at work, you come home and you shout at your wife. So that means if you are frustrated at home, it's not only at work, it's not only the work environment that you are influencing, you are also, influencing the people at home by being angry or being whatever. So that means how you act, it influences so many different people, and the results of which comes back to you because you are part of one whole great design.
Maybe why it's so complicated is because the results are unseen often, so we can't
Yes.
really
Exactly,
see.
absolutely. This is why, lovely. The unseen result means, the definition of unseen result is you can't connect. If I had an accident and if I were to say that, oh, I got drunk once, 2 lives ago, and in that being drunk, I bumped into and killed 2 people. If you were able to relate, then you said, oh yeah, I had an accident because I did this in my past life. But unseen result means that information is not available to you. So when the accident happens, then you create a story around that accident. So this is how the unseen result, you have to understand that things are going to remain unseen. And if you try to relate, why is this person going through this at this given point in time, and find the results, they are unseen by definition. You won't be able to find it. But because you are not able to find it, what is your conclusion? The world is unfair, the world is random, or the world is following cause and effect relationship. And based on that understanding, you will choose your actions. If you understand that there is a cause and effect relationship, you would say, even if I don't understand it, there is a reason for this to be what it is. But because there is a reason for what it is, for that thing to be what it is, if I feel it is not appropriate, I also have free will to change it. Lovely. Neither you are blaming somebody else, not you are blaming yourself as somebody who is a victim of circumstances, and you are proactive. Proactive because you are doing what needs to be done to help yourself. Best way of living.
Well, so if we're coming out of the awareness and we're going into the awareness, why are we here?
Yeah. So that means you have to solve the puzzle. The thing is, this awareness seems to be many. And we, because of ignorance, start to think, I'm only this. And everything else is external to us. And everything is separate. Because of this conclusion that I am this limited person, I can't stand that. Because it's not in keeping with the truth of myself. And I'm constantly trying to gain fulfillment. That fulfillment, because I'm given the eyes, I see the world, I feel that my fulfillment is here. I go for it. Then I said, okay, now by the time I get it, then I said I lose value for it. Then my fulfillment is here. This is how lifetimes go. Living with the mistake, living with ignorance. But the possibility of removing the ignorance is also given. If in one lifetime you figure out that where I'm searching, there is no solution. But I can't settle for no solution. Because behind every pursuit of mine, there is a basic need that I have, and that is of freedom, fulfillment, satisfaction. But if I am not able to get it anywhere else, the solution should be what? Centered on I, not external.
So do you think we are living in a good world now?
So the world is, the world is, I would say, neither good or bad. It is something which is following cause and effect relationship. Right now, the kind of problems that we are facing as humanity is doing of whom? Our collective actions, our orientations. Right? We have created systems. Now look at this, what he was talking about. That the well-being until very recently, in fact, there is only one country in the world who has happiness index. Everybody else has what? GNP. GNP means what? GDP and GNP. GDP is what? How much the country produces, right? So the more you produce, the more people have to, you only will produce if people consume.
Yes, but this is only the last, let's say, 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. So we create systems which have their own merits because that system has given us objects of comfort which no previous generation had. But at the same time, it has created issues for us. Is it good or bad? So that means you're constantly trying to evolve as a human being, and you're constantly trying to find solutions. The minute we take an action, we will get the result. But in the mithya world, because everybody is acting, please understand, mithya world means you're born because you have ignorance. You have ignorance about who you are. So you are born with thinking that I am this individual, and the world, external world, is away from you. And you are born with this need for self-fulfillment. And you are given the eyes, and you are given all these forms. So your natural tendency is going to be what? Take this, take this, take this, do this, do this. So that means each one of us is participating in the world with imperfect information. With that imperfect information, an imperfect view of the world, we try to do some good, but it's never going to be totally good because our understanding of the world itself is fraught with so much error. So no matter what system we create, as long as there are human beings within that system with partial understanding, no system will be perfect. Then we keep on working towards creating a perfect system. The real answer is you need to change the perception of people. Until you make them move from the position of ignorance to the position of reality, they will continue to helplessly act because they are constrained by their partial vision. So therefore, at every level, removing of ignorance is the key. Until people see the value, no matter how much you are convinced, you can't convince them.
And finding the solution within ourselves, does that mean we have to stay all alone? Does that separate us from the world in the best sense?
Sorry?
To find the solution within ourselves, does that also bring with it that we get separated from the world?
No, not at all. See, finding the solution, there is a very nice metaphor, and that is, there was this child who was given the puzzle to solve, and the puzzle was about some very complex, So the mother thought that the child will never be able to solve it because too many complexities and too many things, and the child solved it in 2 hours. Mother was quite surprised. How is it that such a complex puzzle the child solved in 2 hours? So the child said, behind the puzzle there was one human face. All I had to do was to fix that one human face. When I turned it around, the entire complex thing got solved. It doesn't mean that you exclude yourself from everything else. The minute you start changing, the people around you will start changing. All the changes begin with yourself. Gandhiji understood this very well. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Otherwise, you always have agenda for the world. You want people to be this, you want people to be saved, you want to be this, and you want that, and you want to fix this, and you want to fix this. But the main problem is you haven't fixed yourself, you haven't fixed your own understanding of things. And when you operate from partial understanding of things, your capacity to, even though you have good intention, your capacity to solve the things is limited by your own limited understanding of things. So if you really want to solve somebody else's problem, you first have to get the whole understanding of what is going on right. Otherwise, you'll never get there. One of the basic thing of solution of a problem is understand the problem well. If you don't understand the problem and you try to solve the problem, they had a practical lesson yesterday. If you don't understand and you look in the wrong direction, you'll never find it. So what happened now? Tell.
He woke up the king of the castle. Where is it?
So last night I lost my purse in which there was my mobile, my money and everything. And so then yesterday we went to the castle and I had taken out my mobile and I had taken some photos. So then I must have left there. So at night, after satsang, we all run. Anna brings a car, Lutz comes along, Sarthaka comes along. We go to the castle with flashlights, looking for our purse. And then we wake up the owner. The owner is like opening the door. And then he forgets to put off his alarm. His alarm goes off. There's a drama.
And there were ghosts also around.
And then she says, castle, the ancient European castle, this is all connected to some ghost stories. And then we didn't find, and we searched, and then the owner looked everywhere in the restaurant and this and that, and then I said, okay, no, but then Yuta and Sahajo, they went to the pond, so I said, yeah, maybe my purse is in the pond. So she says, okay, let's drive back, and then we drive back, and 3 of us get off, and we look everywhere around the pond, and the storm comes, the thunder comes. And then we didn't find it there. And then she says, okay, maybe then let me go to the office and let me find out if it is in the lost and found department. And So I said, okay, but I was having dinner there and let me go and see. And I went here and it was here. So then they said, we got practical Vedanta lesson. We went to the castle, we searched everywhere, we were frantic, we had alarms, we had this, we had that, we were trying to solve the problem. But we are looking at the wrong place. We created a drama around it.
good you didn't walk this.
Yeah, in
Way.
that slope, exactly. Imagine that we had decided at in the night to walk down that slope. If you don't find the right point, you will not find the solution.
Yeah. What I'm seeing in the world currently, and that's a little bit what I'm trying is that there is a lot of ignorance. I recognize that in myself. I recognize that as far as my horizon is in others, and I see that we have the technology capacity right now to increase ignorance in others. So
Increase or decrease ignorance? Increase.
We would have the capacity to decrease as well.
Okay.
But it's been used sometimes to increase ignorance in a way which makes people, what I feel and see, incapable to use their free will. And that is where maybe I can see that from the point of view and saying, okay, if that is the case, then it is the case, and we have to go through this experience. I personally feel that my karma probably is to fight against this increasement of ignorance, and I'm trying to do that.
Which is wonderful.
But that is where I'm...
No, but that's wonderful. So we are all trying, I mean, the minute you become evolved, you are trying to remove ignorance at so many different levels. I'm trying to remove ignorance at a different level. You are trying to remove ignorance at whatever level that you have defined. It's lovely. That is your choice. You need not have left your job to do this. That's your choice. That is what we call free will. And the more enlightened that free will is, the more the system is going to benefit, and the benefit of that will also come back to you. This is how the design is. This is true.
Neema.
Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.